this is my podcast, another part to it, another episode. Again, my name is Heather. I'm a survivor of CSA and FA. So I've done a variety of topics so far and had one guest, and I'm hoping to have another guest pretty soon. So for me personally, this one is going to be on the keto diet and how it's helped me with my flashbacks. And a couple other topics that'll pop into my head. I forget easily, and that's a coping mechanism of trauma. So for this one, I got this from another survivor on TikTok, but I use this now. They're ketones, and it really helps since being on the keto diet. What it basically comes down to, like in simple terms of keto diet, it's low carb, moderate protein, and high fat. You first take out all of the high carb stuff in your diet, and then slowly incorporate how many grams of carb you have. So that factors in your weight, your age, and then you factor in those two and your height to figure out how many grams of carb you can have a day. I think you can go up to 120, but typically you stay in the lower range. For me personally, it's 20 grams of carb. I try to stay under that if possible. So yeah, the keto diet, especially with having the fat in it, helps brain function and brain fog, and that happens a lot with trauma. And I fasted earlier today. Like I didn't have a lot of carbs in the morning. It was specifically in a supplements I take, that I had. Otherwise I fasted. Like I didn't have like physical food. And that, so earlier. So I fasted till around 12. And that's like very typical kind of thing. So for me, like from like 9 or 10 at night till like 12. So that's a short little fast with just having some of my supplement and my like drink and stuff. So that I drink, which is this thing. So the keto diet has really helped trauma-wise and being okay with my flashbacks. That's kind of just really helped overall. What was the other thing I was gonna talk about? Because this is a faith-based podcast that I'm doing. Being on the keto diet also has helped me with my thyroid disease. I have hypothyroidism. So it's really kind of helped to have it on the lower level. So I used to be really hot. Quick story time. I was in my aunt's car and I got to pick out some clothes at a clothes shop. And I literally, because I was so hot, fogged up her window. And I was so embarrassed because it was like fully smoke and she had to put her defrost on. That's how bad my thyroid was not in control. That's how I kind of knew and got like diagnosed with it. And I like talked to my doctor about it, and then he said, I agree, you do have this from your trauma. So being that said, I've dealt with that for many of years now, and it's under control now. It's under the T3 and T4 levels. That's what they do at the doctor's office to test to make sure that it's in normal range. That's really helped keep it in normal range. I'm trying to think of other things to talk about. Now I understand why it took me the longest time to come back to the church. I don't think I've fully told my whole story. So go back to like end of high school till like my early 20s. I started to detest God. I didn't start to believe him in it anymore, and I screamed at my mom, and she wanted me to go in mass with her and my dad, And I just flat out said no. Like, I don't want to, and that's the day I wanted to end my life. So she caught me. This was by the time she came back home from mass with my dad, and she slapped the knife out of my hands because I was going to slip my wrists and end my life there. And she slapped the knife out of my hands and said, if you ever touch anything like that again to try to hurt yourself, Heather, I'm going to chop your hands off. So you can't do that. And since then, I haven't had any self-harm thoughts. I've had sadness and being in touch with my emotions, but not like physically wanting to harm myself. And that night, Jesus came to me and said, daughter, come back to my church. You're going to be a domino effect for your family. And later in life, people have come in my family to the Catholic Church, like fully initiated in the Catholic Church. So now they're Catholic. And it took me a while to like be okay with Wicca because my mom and my sister lovingly like poke me to death to come back to the church. So I said, I'll try it. So I talked with the person in charge of Wicca at the cathedral in another city that's close to the city I live in. I talked to him. I said, I'd prefer a girl sponsor than a boy sponsor. And he was okay with that. And I thank God he was. And there was a guy in my class that looked a lot like my ex-uncle. And it like triggered me really badly, but I felt God was calling me to come back to the church, and that's where I'd find most of my healing. And I have, and I'm trying to still heal those wounds, but I'm thank God that I have God in my life. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have him in my life. So it's been a big turning point for me to come back to the church, and that I've seen other people in my family get confirmed, and I've seen a lot of intergenerational trauma. And what I mean by that is my sister, not necessarily like enmeshed with our family, but her own set of trauma. My a few of my cousins, the ones that are actually my ex-uncle's son and daughter. They're my cousins. One continued that generational trauma and did it to a poor innocent cousin of ours that was just a little girl, and he shouldn't have done that. And I just know, just from my experiences and researching PTSD and that she has PTSD. Like, there's all of those warning signs and red flags that she does have PTSD undiagnosed. And her like personality like really changed too. So, and mine really changed too. I'm not like an outgoing, talky person, and it's taken me a long time to like break out of that shell of shyness. His own daughter has PTSD, and I physically can't be around her because we are kind of enmeshed, because he groomed her to have me come over. And basically what she was telling me in code, like, please come here so my brother and I don't have to deal with this stuff. So I'm no longer really in contact with her or her mom, my aunt. And that's just for my own mental well-being. And that's the point I am in my healing. And that's okay. A few of my cousins, the other cousins, have trauma. I don't know if it's necessarily from my ex-uncle or, like a friend, family friend of theirs or whatever, but I know there's just big red flags with them too. So my family kind of has that intergenerational trauma and intergenerational curses. So I tried to break off the trauma and not pass it down to the next generation, while my one cousin or cousins continued that line of trauma. And I understand why my one cousin now is trying to run away, and I tried to do that in my past and not face my trauma head on, and it did more harm than good. I started doing stuff to not take care of me. So by being in therapy, seeing a psychiatrist, and working on my own healing and my own mental, physical, and emotional health has really helped in my spiritual health too. People don't think of spiritual health as a good thing, but for me, it's a really big, major one. So for me, my spiritual health is trying to say the rosary daily, going to confession weekly. I try to do that for my own soul, because it helps my own soul heal in a way, knowing that I'm taking my power back each time by going in confessional. A lot of people don't know this because I don't share it like publicly, and this is the one I've been like really emotional about and really sad about. Is it happened at my ex-uncle's church, like I said in a previous one of my podcasts, and in a confessional with multiple pedophiles. And now I understand why it hurt so badly to walk in a church, a Catholic church especially. And for me, it's healing yet traumatizing to do that, but I made a promise to myself and to God I wouldn't leave the church. And I'm not going to do that just because of my flashbacks and just finally putting the pieces of that puzzle together, those certain flashbacks. And now I understand why it took me 8 years to come out, because of all of this buried in my brain. And I have 2 great support systems, my 2 aunts, that have helped me and support me and are trying to figure out those 2 pieces of the puzzle, along with the victim's advocate that I've been working with. So that's what I'll talk about. Generational trauma, intergenerational curses. So in the church, spiritual warfare is huge. And there's a quote, I forgot the saint, but it says, behind every priest, there is a demon trying to take them down. And I think of that with the pedo priests and the pedo sisters and nuns and religious that are in the church. I think of it like that. There's a demon latched onto their back and they say, I want to do harm. I want to do this. I don't want to be a child of God and to lead these people in the right direction. So ones that do see us saying that, I think that demon latched onto their soul. I'm not discrediting, like, they chose to do that. I'm not discrediting that, but I'm saying there can also be a lot of spiritual warfare. And I agree with my one aunt. She told me when I talked to her and opened up to her about some stuff, not everything, but some stuff, that to ask Our Lady to sweep out the church of all of those heretics, all of the people in wolves and sheep's clothing, and to remember that it's not my fault. Just because it happened in a church, it's not my fault. But I feel like, something inside me just says that, but I know I'm not. I know I'm a child of God. I know I'm a warrior. I've made mistakes myself, but I would never do that to a child. And it breaks my heart that people perceive the Catholic Church like that. Even though I'm hurting right now emotionally and mentally, because of that, doesn't make me a bad person. Can I feel angry and hurt about it? Yes, I can. And I'll be able to cope with it best as I can, but it still hurts. It still feels raw to put all of those pieces together to finally understand that this is huge, huge, and a huge part of my healing. So I have to be ready to and prepare myself mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually to do certain stuff for my own healing, for my own sanity, to take my power back. And for me, it's It's disheartening when people just make assumptions of the church. When that's a certain percentage, I'm not trying to say that they're okay and to enable them to keep in the church. There's one teaching in the catechism that I think I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, I'm not trying to discredit the church or anything. It's just once a priest, always a priest. I get like my confirmation saint, her attacker, her abuser, um, stabbed her a bunch of times. And after she came to him in a dream, he changed his ways. He completely did a 360, where with mine, hasn't repented, stalked, harassed me, all those types of stuff. So I don't want to have anything to do with him. I don't want him in my life. And I don't want him around my family or anything. Even his children, I don't want him to be around them. And that's where I say there could be a saint in the making if they truly repented. If those people really truly wanted to get help and to seek forgiveness, and that, especially the priests that have done that, and the people in power. And I told my one aunt, I said, it's all about power and money when it comes down to it. Taking that power over that little child or children, taking power away from them. It's all about power and money. Where can I get the most power and money? How can I manipulate this person to do what I want? And that goes with any pedophile, not just in a religion, but those in general. It's about power. They can't seek power over people who are in authority and that, but where can I do it where there's a lot of vulnerability, and I can put them under my thumb and have them under my thumb to do whatever I want. I think of it that way. And those people are very sick and twisted and psycho. So for me, it's just breaks my heart that people just perceive the Catholic Church that way. And like saying we're not Christian in that when we are. I'm a survivor of CSA, FA. I get a lot of judgment for coming back to the church and being part of this pedo church when that's not the case. Those are wolves in sheep's clothing. I don't mean to judge them and that, but I think that comes with righteous judgment. And that happens in every religion, every organization, not just Christianity, but all religions. So I think people need to take a step back and to not judge based on the outer layer. And like I said previously, I will reiterate it. Do I agree with what they did? The Catholic Church did. The people in positions of power? No. By covering it up? No. Should they be held accountable? Yes, I totally agree with that. Should they have gone about it a different way instead of silencing and shaming the victims and survivors? Yes, they should have gone about it a different way. And I will stand up for it for the day I die. I will defend the church, but I will not defend those people, those certain people in the church for their actions. Their actions affected not just that child, but their family. And my heart goes out to them. And I will pray for them. And if the church triggers you too much to come back to the church, find a different church to go to, a different denomination to go to. If the church triggers you too much, I completely understand. If you never want to come back, but don't let that one pedo or pedos take your relationship away from God. And if you need to talk, someone to lean on, I'm here, especially the religious aspect of it. I'm here for you, and I understand, and my heart goes out, because at one point I never wanted to come back. I never wanted to step in a Catholic church. I never wanted to see a priest or anything like that. I was completely turned off by that. I just would rather be agnostic or atheist. But God had different plans for me, and I'm thankful he brought me back. Because I don't know where I would be if I did, because I I was crying out for help, and he helped me in a way that nobody else could. So that's why I want to become a CSA and FA advocate. I want to also be an advocate for religious trauma, because part of mine was religious trauma, believe it or not. I want to be an advocate for that. And I understand if you never want to come back. So that's why I'm working my way towards doing that, and also my music career. I want to be a multilingual singer. So yeah, I think I'll end my podcast with that. But just again, spiritual warfare is real. And I really do believe that behind every priest and anybody who's in religious life that do that, and same, I don't mean to go off track. I'll just say a little bit more and then I'll end it. What happened with the residential schools with the Native American / Indigenous people, my heart goes out to them too. They shouldn't have never treated you that way, and I'm so sorry that the church I'm part of did that to you guys. I am so sorry, and I completely understand why you hold a lot of hate for us. Just coming from a survivor of CSA, FA, and religious trauma, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that people in position of power that wanted to have control over you guys did that. And I pray every day for all the little ones that are finally getting a name and the mass graves and stuff. I'm truly terribly sorry. I'm just one person. I'm not in a position of power, but people in power shouldn't do that. And I'm sorry my church did that they were a part of that. They played a role in that. And I hope one day you'll be able to heal. And I hope forgive, but I understand if you never forgive. Because that takes a long time to heal those deep wounds. And the family and friends of them too. I'm just, it breaks my heart. There are reasons why I'm a part of the church, but that is not one of them. And I hope you can understand that that's not our intention, that's not the whole church. And I'll support you in whatever decision, but just know I will have your back, and I am angry for you, and I am with you when they shouldn't have done that. And same for all Indigenous people, not just Native Americans, but all Indigenous people. If my church did that to you guys, I am truly sorry. I know I'm just one person of the church, and I know it probably doesn't make sense to you why I'm part of the church, but very evil people, sick and twisted psychopaths when it comes down to it. So I'll pray for you and your families, for all the little babies, because that's what they truly were. They were just little kids that didn't deserve the treatment that they did, and they should have been able to express their culture and their beliefs without having it being forced upon them to speak English and all of that. And again, I know I'm just one person of this big huge church, but I hope my apology reaches you, and to let you know you're not alone. And I understand all of the pain, all of the suffering and religious trauma, and just the trauma in general. I truly do understand. Thank you, and God bless.